I was grabbing coffee with a friend the other day, a guy who's been driving for a ride-hailing app for 3 years. He's usually the most relaxed person I know, but that afternoon, he looked like he was mourning a tragedy. He kept refreshing his app, his thumb trembling slightly as he stared at the screen. When I asked what was wrong, he didn't tell me about a car problem or a family issue. He just turned the phone toward me. There it was, glowing in bright digital yellow, a 4.6 rating. To most of us, 4.6 sounds like a B+ egg. To him, it was a catastrophe. He started spiraling, trying to find a pattern in the chaos. Was it the woman who didn't like his playlist? The businessman who was late for a flight? He wasn't just worried about his bonus, he looked genuinely ashamed, as if that decimal point was a final objective verdict on his character as a human being. But then the mood shifted. A notification popped up, a top performer badge for completing a 50-hour streak. For a split second he beamed. He felt seen and valued by the same silent machine that had just crushed him. Watching that instantaneous swing from worthlessness to pride, I realized he wasn't just working a job anymore. He was living inside a giant, invisible math equation that decided his value every single hour. We like to think we're the ones in control, the ones doing the scrolling, the choosing, and the judging, but the reality is far more clinical. Every time you pause on a video, every time your heart rate spikes on your smartwatch, and every time you like a post, you are feeding a data factory. We have entered an era where human experience is being harvested as raw material, turned into metrics that determine who gets a loan, who gets a job, and who is valuable to society, what happens to our dignity when we are reduced to a dashboard. And in a world where everything is tracked, is there any part of you left that isn't just a row in a database? Today, we're looking at the hidden architecture of the digital society and the new ways we are all being judged.
That story, I mean, it's not just an anecdote about the gig economy. It is the fundamental baseline of modern existence.
Right.
It captures the exact moment we moved from simple surveillance, someone watching you, to something else.
Yeah.
To datafication. And there's a massive, massive difference.
Explain that difference, because to me it feels a little like semantics. Boring. I mean, it all sounds like intrusion.
Right. Surveillance is, it's passive. I watch you to make sure you don't steal from the store. Datafication is active. It's transformative.
Okay.
It takes the messy, complex, unquantifiable reality of your life, your playlist choices, your breaking habits, your tone of voice, and it turns it into a metric. It literally turns your life into data.
And once it's data.
Demise, labeled.
So we aren't just people being watched anymore, we're people being processed.
We are being converted. I mean, some sociologists are even calling it a new species, Homo Numericus.
The human reduced to numbers.
Exactly. And when you look at the stack of research on this, credit systems, dating markets, health tracking, the picture that emerges is one of a profound existential shift. We are, in a sense, outsourcing our judgment of value.
Both of ourselves and of other people.
The algorithm, yeah.
We're going to explore the three arenas where this math equation, as I called it, really governs our lives: social status, romantic selection, and the internal self.
Right.
We need to understand the mechanics of this machine if we want to live inside it with any dignity left. Sure. View. The way society itself measures goodness.
This is the realm of quantified social status.
Yeah.
And to really get a handle on it, we have to look at the systems that are, well, the most advanced in this regard.
I heard a story from a driver in a bustling tech hub in Southeast Asia that perfectly captures this quantified social status we often discuss. He spent his days obsessing over a single number on his dashboard, his service score. In this rigid digital hierarchy, a drop of 1 points didn't just mean fewer rides. It felt like a public declaration of his declining resource value in the city's competitive ecosystem. He told me that when his score was high, he felt like a king navigating a transparent social ladder, but the moment it dipped, he felt invisible, as if the algorithm had decided he was no longer fit for the modern, atomized society. He started dressing better and speaking less, molding his entire personality to please the cold logic of the rating system. Trying to imagine his life, I see a man whose dignity is no longer an internal flame, but a flickering digit on a screen. My takeaway from this is a bit bittersweet. While these systems offer a clear path to success through data, they turn the human experience into a high-stakes game of survival, where your worth is only as good as your last uploaded data point. It's an efficient signal of fitness, sure, but at the cost of a soul that can't be measured by a KPI.
That unlocks why these systems exist in the first place.
Okay.
It's easy for us to look at things like China's social credit system or similar integrated scoring and just think, oh, that's just control. But if you dig into the behavioral economics of it all, it's actually solving a much deeper, much older human problem.
And what problem is that?
The stranger problem. Think about how humans evolved. We lived in villages, right? Maybe 150 people.
Right, Dunbar's number.
Exactly. In that setting, reputation was organic. It was baked in. You knew if the blacksmith paid his debts. You knew if the baker was a drunk. You didn't need a credit score because you had history. You had what you could call social integrity built right into the fabric of the village.
But you can't have that in a city of 20 million people. It's impossible.
Modern society is atomized. We are completely surrounded by millions of strangers. So how do I trust you? I don't know your family. I don't know your history. This creates massive social friction.
Okay.
The argument for these digital scoring systems is that they manufacture synthetic integrity.
Synthetic and technical, like we're manufacturing morality in a lab.
Or maybe just automating trust. It's a transparency mechanism. By consolidating all this data, financial credit, commercial behavior, legal compliance, social interactions into a single metric, the system provides a shortcut.
A shortcut to trust.
It allows two strangers to interact with a degree of confidence. If I see your high score, I don't need to know you personally to know that you're probably safe.
So it's really an efficiency play. It's just about lubricating the gears of a massive anonymous economy.
It creates what they call a trustworthy society by making integrity something you can measure. And this is where the concept of male resource value becomes so important, particularly in these hyper-competitive economies.
How so?
In a biological sense, we're always signaling our fitness. But in the digital age, you don't signal it by, hunting a mammoth. You signal it with a data point. A high score is a beacon. It shouts, I am reliable, I am financially stable, I follow the rule.
It effectively gamifies citizenship. You play by the rules, your score goes up, and you win prizes.
And the prizes are very real. This is the positive reinforcement side of it that so often gets ignored in the West. We tend to focus on the punishments, the blacklist. But the system works because of the incentives.
The rewards.
Being a model citizen or having a 5-star volunteer rating on your profile isn't just a vanity metric. It unlocks the red list.
And the red list is basically the VIP club of society.
Yes, it means deposit-free rentals for bikes or apartments. It can mean faster check-ins at hospitals. It means VIP treatment in government offices or, and this is a big one, cheaper interest rates on loans.
It creates a very clear, very tangible, navigable hierarchy.
If you behave in a way that's defined as pro-social, life literally gets easier. The friction just disappears.
I can absolutely see the appeal of that. I mean, if I'm a rational actor in that system, I want the frictionless life. I want to be in the VIP lane.
And that rational desire is what drives compliance.
Yeah.
It nudges millions of people toward what the system defines as integrity. But here's where it gets really personal. This isn't just about getting a loan or a rental car anymore.
Right.
This logic is bleeding into the most intimate decisions we make as human beings. We have to talk about how this impacts mating.
Because if I have a score that objectively proves I'm a high-value human, why wouldn't I use that to find a partner? It's logical.
It's perfectly logical, and this is shifting the entire dynamic of how we select partners. In dating theory, we usually talk about two main drivers, likes attract and potentials attract.
Likes attract being the romantic ideal, right? We share the same sense of humor, we both like the same music, we have chemistry.
The stuff that movies are made of.
Yeah.
But potentials attract is the economic reality. It's about resource acquisition. Can this person provide? Safe? Will they be a good co-investor in a family?
And the data on this is showing a shift.
The data from urban Chinese women, for example, suggests that as these scoring systems become more integrated into daily life, there's a hard, rational shift toward potentials attract.
Because the score acts as a guarantee of a certain kind of lifestyle.
It's a risk filter. Simple. In a hyper-competitive, high-cost urban society, marrying someone is a merger. It's a huge economic decision.
And if I marry someone with a low score, I'm taking on their liabilities.
You're inheriting their liabilities. Exactly. Maybe they can't get a travel visa for a vacation. Maybe they'll be denied a mortgage for a home. A low score signals risk. A high score signals safety.
So it's not that romance is dead, it's become highly rationalized.
It's an economic calculation, first and foremost. A woman looking at a potential partner with a high score knows, with a degree of certainty, that her life will be smoother. It's an undeniable signal of competitive fitness in the modern world. It's efficient, but it also means that integrity and character are no longer things you discover over months of dating. They're things you verify on a screen before you even agree to the first date.
Which implies that if you don't have the right data points, you don't even get a foot in the door. You're just filtered out by the system before you can even say hello.
And that kind of algorithmic exclusion is happening at a massive, massive scale in another domain, the world of dating apps. Which brings us right to our second story. If the state is measuring our social worth, the apps are measuring our sexual worth. Brutal.
I recently came across a series of posts from a young man navigating the winner-take-all landscape of modern digital dating apps. He felt like he was caught in an evolutionary mismatch, where his visibility metric was so low that he had essentially become a ghost in the sexual market. He described the frustration of being datafied, his hobbies, his face, and his height processed by an algorithm that deemed him average and thus unworthy of the spotlight. He started to view his own attraction through the lens of algorithmic mate selection, feeling that the Homo Numericus era had robbed him of the chance to prove his character through real-world interaction. I can't help but feel for the psychological strain this puts on men today. While we talk about the sexual market and competitive fitness as cold economic terms, the lived reality is one of profound isolation. It makes sense why there is such a desperate push for psychological sovereignty. When an app decides your romantic destiny based on a score, reclaiming your sense of self becomes an act of rebellion. It's a harsh reminder that when we turn attraction into data, we risk losing the very humanity that makes a connection worth having.
The term he used, evolutionary mismatch, that is the critical takeaway here. It explains the agony so many people are feeling. Our brains are, they're running software that was designed for the Pleistocene era, but we are living in a digital casino.
I wanted to ask about that casino analogy, Missy, but is that fair? I mean, casinos are rigged. Are you saying dating apps are rigged?
Let's think about the business model. Does a dating app make money if you find the love of your life, get married, and delete the account?
No, that's a churn event. That's a lost customer.
Right. They make money if you stay on the app, swiping, paying for boosts, watching ads. Their primary incentive is for match accumulation, not for genuine connection. So, like a casino, the house edge is designed to keep you playing the game for as long as possible.
And just like in a casino, you've got the high rollers at the VIP table, and then you've got everybody else losing their shirts.
That's the winner-take-all dynamic. The data distribution on these apps, it's not a gentle bell curve. It's a Pareto distribution on steroids. A tiny, tiny percentage of highly visible profiles, mostly male profiles, capture the vast majority of all the attention.
Which creates that ghost experience for the average guy that the post mentioned.
If you are an average man in this system, you experience what's called match throttling. You're algorithmically invisible. And because you're invisible, the natural conclusion is to assume you have no value. But the problem isn't necessarily you, it's the environment. It's what some researchers call the strangely framework.
Strangely. I do love a good acronym, even if that one's a bit of a mouthful. Why is the modern dating environment strangely weird?
It's a way to conceptualize why we feel so off. So let's start with SS. S is for social media. We are constantly, day in and day out, bombarded with supernormal stimuli.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, in a tribe of 150 people, you might see the most attractive person in the whole village once a day. Now you open Instagram, and you see the most attractive people on the entire planet, filtered and airbrushed and perfectly posed by the hundreds in a matter of minutes.
It completely destroys your baseline for what's normal.
It absolutely recalibrates your perception of average. Real normal people start to look disappointing by comparison. Next is T. T is for temporary. Relationships in the digital age feel disposable. They feel temporary. Because the pool of options seems infinite, we start to treat people like products with a 30-day return policy.
There's no incentive for commitment if a supposedly better option is just one swipe away.
Which brings us to our relocatable. We move around constantly for work or school. We break our social bonds. We don't have that village network to vouch for us or to hold us accountable. We're essentially alone in the market. And then LL is for lots of options.
I mean, who doesn't want options?
Everyone thinks they do. But the human brain simply cannot handle infinite options. The research is very clear on this. It leads to choice overload and decision paralysis.
Right.
And ironically, for the winners of the algorithm, which in this context is often women who are inundated with matches, this abundance is just as stressful and dissatisfying as the invisibility is for men.
So the women are drowning in noise and the men are dying of thirst.
That's a very poignant way to put it. And how do men respond to that thirst? They try to buy visibility. They are the primary purchasers of all the premium features, the boosts, the super likes. They're literally paying money to not be ghosts.
heartbreaking because it directly ties your self-worth to the algorithm's feedback. If I pay my $10 and I still don't get a match, it's not just bad luck. It's a data point that says you are genetically unworthy.
That is the core of the Homo Numericus mindset in dating. We interpret a lack of digital engagement as an objective verdict on our soul, and this gets to the heart of the evaluation mismatch.
This is the 2D versus 3D problem, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. We evolved to evaluate potential mates based on rich, experiential data. How do they smell? How do they move? Do they make you laugh when you're sad? That is high bandwidth, real-world data.
The stuff that actually matters for a relationship.
The stuff that matters. But an app can only give you low bandwidth declarative data. Height? 6 foot. Joe, banker, photo, standing next to a sedated tiger.
You can't measure vibe in a database. You can't quantify chemistry.
You absolutely cannot. And yet, we are forcing ourselves to make these life-altering decisions based on the low bandwidth data. We are prioritizing the resume over the reality of the person. And when that digital resume is rejected by the algorithm over and over, people retreat. It's not surprising we see the rise of subgroups like incels, which are effectively a rebellion against this profound algorithmic exclusion. They are groups of people who have been told by the data relentlessly that they have zero value in the market.
It feels like the common thread here, with social status and now with dating, is that we're trying to optimize things that maybe shouldn't be optimized. We optimize citizenship for trust, and we got a credit score for the soul. We optimize dating for efficiency, and we got a loneliness epidemic.
And now we're turning that same optimization logic inward. We're applying it to the one thing we feel we have left to control, our own bodies.
Quantified self. Yeah, this is the part that hits closest to home for me. I wear the watch. I track the steps. I am completely guilty of this.
You and millions of others. And it's important to understand this goes deeper than just counting steps. Philosophy. It's a whole worldview.
There's a fascinating, albeit chilling, account I read about a corporate analyst who decided to treat his entire life like a series of amoral strategies to beat the system. He lived by his KPIs at work and tracked his sleep, heart rate, and steps with a religious fervor, believing that if he could master the data, he could reclaim control. He viewed himself as a Homo Numericus, a being whose self-worth was entirely externalized into health scores and productivity logs. However, he eventually realized that he wasn't controlling the algorithm. The algorithm was training him like a lab rat. He spoke about the moment he stopped exercising because his wearable device broke. If the data didn't record it, did the health benefit even exist? It's a powerful illustration of data colonialism over the human body. Watching this from my perspective as a creator, I see the logic in his attempt to game the system for psychological sovereignty, but I also see the trap. We try to use rational strategies to fight a machine that is far more rational than we are. It's a reminder that true dignity might actually lie in the data we refuse to provide, the moments of our lives that remain unmeasured, unranked, and entirely our own.
If the data didn't record it, did it even exist? I mean, that question just haunts me. It is the modern version of, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound?
But it feels real. I've gone for a run, realized my watch battery was dead, and felt cheated, genuinely cheated. Like, why am I sweating if I don't get the credit for it in the app?
That reaction, that feeling of being cheated, is proof that you have fully internalized the logic of the machine. The sources call this worldview self-knowledge through numbers. It's based on a fundamental premise that your own intuition, your internal sense of how you feel, your gut is flawed. It's biased. It's subjective. Therefore, the only truth, the only objective reality is the data.
Wow. So we don't trust ourselves anymore. We trust the sensor on our wrist more than our own feelings.
We are becoming what some call somatic selves. We're starting to view the body not as a vessel for experience, but as a biological machine to be tweaked and optimized. We are the managers of our own human capital.
It's a very neoliberal way of looking at the self.
Think about the bathroom scale.
The bathroom scale.
In the 1920s, when the bathroom scale first became a common household item, it fundamentally changed how people related to their bodies. Before that, you judged your health by how you felt. Do I have energy? Do I feel strong? The scale introduced an external, supposedly objective judge into the privacy of your home. Suddenly you could feel great, you could feel perfectly healthy, but then you'd step on the scale, see a number you didn't like, and your entire mood would be ruined. You'd immediately feel terrible.
The number overruled the feeling.
The number overruled the feeling. And now we have strapped that judge to our wrist 24/7. And this leads to what the research calls disrupted integrity.
That sounds like a structural failure in a building or something.
It's a structural failure in the self. It happens at the exact moment we decide to prioritize the digital signals from our devices over the physical reality of our bodies.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. We ignore hunger pangs because the calorie tracking app says we're out of our budget for the day. We ignore shooting back pain to keep a productivity streak alive on our work software.
Or we ignore the fact that we feel perfectly rested, but our sleep tracker says our recovery is only at 30%, so we decide we must be exhausted and we cancel our plans.
That is the perfect example of the loss of agency. The device tells you how you feel before you've even had a chance to ask yourself. And this is a form of what some critics call data colonialism.
Colonialism is a very strong word. Who is colonizing whom?
The tech companies are colonizing your perception. They are extracting this raw behavioral data, your heart rate, your sleep patterns, your location, and turning it into their profit. But in that process, they are training you, conditioning you to view yourself through their lens. You begin to adopt their metrics as your personal values.
So if the system is this pervasive, and we can't really escape it, because let's be honest, I'm not throwing my smartphone in a river anytime soon, how do we survive it? The story you mentioned, the analyst, he found rational strategies.
He adopted what he called an amoral strategy.
But becoming a sociopath, just gaming the system for personal gain?
No, it means becoming a stark realist. It means understanding the rules of the game you're being forced to play. If your workplace is just a dashboard of key performance indicators, then you optimize for those KPIs to get your paycheck. You hit the number. But, and this is the crucial part, you consciously detach your self-worth from that number.
So you learn to treat the data as input, not as a verdict on your soul.
You recognize the transaction that's taking place. I am giving you this data in exchange for a paycheck or for a health insight, but you refuse to let that number define who you are as a person. You have to maintain that psychological distance. You are the user of the tool, not the product of the tool.
That really seems to be the only way to maintain that psychological sovereignty we keep coming back to.
And we have to look at the synthesis of all this. Whether we're talking about the social credit system, the Tinder algorithm, or the Fitbit score on your wrist, the underlying logic is identical. It's the logic of optimization.
And optimization is so seductive, isn't it? It sounds like a good thing.
It's the ultimate efficiency trap. We all want things to be efficient. We want to find a safe partner quickly. We want to get fit efficiently. We want to be trusted by the bank instantly. And these systems, they deliver that efficiency, too. But they do it by stripping away all the context. They strip away the nuance, the messiness.
And the messiness is where the humanity lives.
That's where it lives, precisely. So we're stuck in what you could call a forced mismatch. We must use these tools to function in a modern economy. You can't just opt out of having a bank account or a digital footprint, but we're also caught in a hijacked mismatch.
Hijacked because our primitive brains just love the shiny rewards.
Our brains are wired for it. We love the top performer badge. We love the it's a match screen. These are supernormal stimuli. They hijack our dopamine pathways. So we're sitting here trying to be rational actors in a system that is expertly designed to exploit our deepest irrationalities.
So the top performer badge my friend got in the beginning, it is just a trick.
It was a vague reward. It was a classic gamification tactic designed to keep him driving without the company having to pay him more money. It made him feel seen by a machine that is, by its very nature, incapable of seeing.
That's the real tragedy of it all. We are desperately seeking validation from systems that are fundamentally incapable of caring about us.
And that is why developing that psychological sovereignty is the ultimate act of rebellion. It's about noticing the mismatch. It's about realizing that feeling lonely or anxious or unrated isn't a personal failure on your part. It is a perfectly natural human reaction to a deeply unnatural environment.
We have spent the hour exploring how we measure ourselves through credit scores, desirability ratings, and productivity logs. We crave these numbers because they promise certainty in a chaotic world. They tell us how we are doing. The most profound moments of your life, the instant you fell in love, the grief of a goodbye, the feeling of the sun on your face after a long winter, produce no data points. They contributed nothing to your score. In a world obsessed with making everything calculable, perhaps the only true act of rebellion left is to cultivate the parts of yourself that refuse to be counted. The parts that, if the service went down tomorrow, would be the only things that remain.